You're listening to the Crochet Conversations podcast with Ines and Mel, and this is episode 37, The Truth Behind Machine-Made Crochet. Hello, happy Sunday everyone. Welcome back to another episode of ours.
Hi guys, welcome back.
I hope you've had a good week. Lots of whip completions. Lots of, join as you go. Lots of Jagos going on. How's your crochet week been, Mel?
I'm really working hard on my cardigan. I'm waiting to use TGIF on it soon, hopefully.
Actually, I have been quite good with my projects
with
too.
All your whips? Okay.
I've completed one tote bag.
Right.
Just one tote bag.
I see you working on so many whips at the same time. Like in a day, I can see you switching like 5 whips at a time.
I am working between like 2 or 3 things at the moment. I'm never mono whip, right? So I always have at least 3 or 4 active whips.
Right.
So right now, I know some of you guys always ask what I'm working on currently. So right now, I'm actually working on a top for myself. It's just that I have a pattern that's tried and tested, but I decided to use a different yarn this time that is a lot thinner, and now I'm using a 2.5mm crochet hook.
Right, so the size is a little bit off?
Yeah, so that kind of really messes up with my stitch count, so it's a lot of re-experimenting with, which is a little frustrating. But apart from that, I worked on a tote bag, which is now done, and I'm working on a series of mini Trinity Stitches card cases, which will be up on the website soon. So
those look really cute.
I'm pretty excited about that. So anyway, that's my crochet week.
I've actually been really looking forward to this week's episode.
Actually, so have I, because it's something that people ask me all the time. I feel frustrated enough that it's enough to spur me into making an episode about it. Not really frustrated at being asked, but frustrated and annoyed at the industry, like the fashion industry on the whole, for perpetuating like misinformation about what crochet really is.
Yeah.
So this episode, like, let's really talk about that.
Yeah, there's so much things to talk about.
Yeah, there really is a lot to talk about. And so let's talk about the title of this episode, The Truth Behind Machine-Made Crochet. And I'm just going to give you the straight answer, and it's that there is no such thing as machine-made crochet. The reason we titled it this way, and I don't want you guys to feel like this is like clickbait sort of titling, but I feel like it's important to understand that that's what people view crochet as, like fashion crochet. Like that's how people view it. That there is
they think there's actually a machine out there.
Yeah, that makes crochet, so that there is actually machine-made crochet. And I have been asked, what's the truth behind it? Like, how much do you actually make? Like, how much money is it? How cheap is it really to machine-made crochet? No, tell me honestly. Don't give me your crochet artist bullshit, but tell me straight up facts. And so that conversation was sort of playing in my mind when we decided to title this episode the way it is. So in this episode, I'm going to break down the different sections of machine-made crochet, quote-unquote, and how problematic it is, and really clarify once and for all what can be machine-made and what cannot be machine-made. So the straight answer, like I said, is that crochet cannot be machine-made. Let's not talk about if you give an AI machine or whatever to do it. Obviously, one AI machine could do it. But when we're talking about the old mechanics, like a big machine that you see in regular factories, the only types of work or like fabrics that they can produce are knit. So you can produce knit in a machine because it's basically just looping one loop into another loop into another loop.
Yeah.
And a machine can sort of predict where that loop will be and transfer one loop onto another. Therefore, you are able to knit machine. So big knitted pieces, even then in a machine, you can only produce really big knitted pieces.
Yeah.
Ultimately, when it's done, someone still needs to sit behind that big knitted fabric, cut it into shape, sew it down, and then package it and sell.
Right.
So it's not like this person is able to, or this machine is able to knit intricate designs with cuff and, you know, like shoulders,
Yeah.
the way a real artist knitter is able to do it.
Right, so it's really just very simple stitches over and over again.
Yeah, that produces one big square or rectangular piece of fabric. And if a machine is able to create something more complex, it's probably just like a loom, like a circular knitting loom.
Right, those kind of smaller machines.
Yeah, which you can buy at home and keep it in your house, and it creates like a infinite circle
Yeah, I've seen those,
upon
yeah.
each other. But when that's done, you kind of have to still take it apart and use like the intricacies of a human hand and mind
To finish up the
to
product.
construct something together. So even though I say that it's possible to machine make knit, it's still reliant on a human's creativity at the end of the day.
Yeah, there's still that step 2 process.
Yeah, there's still that human touch element that a machine cannot give.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this same concept, but switch it to crochet instead. Now, crochet is done, you know, every stitch is made by hand, similar to knit, not that knit isn't, but crochet is uniquely different in a separate way, right? Because it's got many layers and crochet is incredibly textured. I mean, that's why you get thicker fabrics and all. And each stitch of crochet is so complex that so far, no machine is able to recreate what a human hand can create with crochet.
Yeah.
And so for this reason, it's not possible to have a machine that is able to like crochet. When I'm talking crochet, I mean true crochet, you know, crochet
Yeah.
created by hand. And the reason I say that so far no machine is able to do it is because of the way the stitches are situated. So in knit, all you do is you hold up a loop and you just put a placeholder in it, and then you put the next loop in it. And the placeholder is basically the knitting needle itself.
Yeah.
You know, that's why you collect loops on your needle, because they're sort of like a placeholder. But ultimately, you don't do anything with the loops until you get back to that place. In the sense of crochet, each stitch you work in is actually working into a previous stitch. So you create a stitch and then you build another stitch on top of it. So the next stitch is really dependent on how the previous stitch is being made. And there's no machine so far that's able to isolate different strands and decide which strand to pick up depending on the stitch variation we do.
Yeah. It's virtually impossible, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Say we want to do like a front or back post. How in the world is a machine supposed to isolate a single post
Yeah.
to front and back post, you know, pick it up and go through and come back out? It would be too complex.
And there's just too many layers, right?
It's too many layers, and I think it's too much programming to do as well. I mean, if we're thinking about in terms of just programming a machine to do it, I think it would be too complicated.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, being able to isolate just different strands for itself still requires a human's sort of touch. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but it still requires like a human's brain to think and individually pull out one stitch.
Yeah.
And front post is easy. We'll talk about back post.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about switching between front post and then back post and then front post and then back post. I just find that it's crazy to think a machine might do that.
Yeah, even if we, don't talk about front post or back post, a foundation stitch like a single crochet would be considered too complicated for a machine, I would think.
Yeah, exactly. And, if we break it down to why that's not possible, it's not just as simple as putting a loop into a hook or whatever, right? When you do a single crochet, you pick up the top two strands. There is a natural gap in between the spaces where the two stitches sit.
Yeah.
So there's one stitch, and then there's a space, and then there's another stitch. And crochet works into that space.
Yeah,
It's
correct.
not working into a stitch. And I don't think, or so far at least that's what it seems, no machine is able to understand the concept of space between things.
Yeah.
They can gauge how far it can travel, but it can't gauge to that minuscule level where it identifies
With such precision, right?
yeah, and then go in and pick up both loops and then do an action of yarning over and then pulling it back out.
Yeah, it's the yarn over, yeah.
That's insane. And what if we have double treble?
Don't even need to talk about that.
In the last episode, we talked about,
A triple...
what was it? A front post triple, treble, front post, double, treble.
Treble.
Can you imagine a machine doing that and still be able to continue into chains and working back? Can you imagine a machine doing like a picot stitch? That's insane. I don't think it's possible. Now, you can argue that a machine is able to create a chain stitch, but a chain stitch is basically just a loop in a loop in a loop in a loop in a loop. And you may be able to create that, but you're just gonna have one hella long strand. I don't know what you would do
With a really long chain.
with one hella long strand of, just chain stitch. So if you wanna be really technical, then yes, a machine can crochet. There can be a crochet machine that does a chain stitch, and that's all it can
does,
do.
yeah.
There's just nothing else to it. Let's not even talk about stitch variations at this point. We're just talking about basic stitches.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if we introduce variables such as stitch variations? My mind is blown. If I'm a machine, I would just
Give
short
up.
circuit and
Yeah.
die. Okay, so let's move on to something else. The machine itself. Now, if you Google a crochet machine, you will actually find one crochet machine.
Huh.
It actually markets itself as a crochet machine, but it's only in the name of it. It's just the name that was given to it. It's called a crochet knitting machine.
Right.
Okay, and this is an industry level machine by the brand. I think the manufacturer of this brand is called like Comez.
Yeah.
Comez. And the name of this machine, it's a really long name, so brace yourself. It's crochet knitting machine with long throw device. And the subtext is for elastic and non-elastic bandages for medical and orthopedic uses.
Wow, so specific.
Yes, so it's a machine that can create some sort of crochet knit look-alike, but it's the name of it. And let me explain why. These machines are used by industries to mass produce what looks like crochet, so like crochet look-alike, but it's actually a kind of embroidery or like weaving embroidery that mimics the look of crochet on the outside. But if you hold it up and look at it, it's actually layers of like pasta sort of laid on top of each other. So it's like the strand being laid on top of each other and then sewn down into shape.
Oh, okay. I understand what you mean.
So it's not really, you don't really have any loops going on. It's just one long strand being like stitched up in loops and loops and loops and loops. And these machines sometimes uses two strands that interweave kind of like a sewing machine, but it's not like true crochet
where it's only
it's
one.
created using one strand and a hook.
Right.
Right, because if you even if you put one strand and you change the variable of the hook to like needles, then it changes art form altogether.
Yeah, it's not
becomes
crochet
knit.
anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you put it on a loom, it becomes weaving.
Yeah.
It's not what makes crochet. Crochet needs a hook. And the interesting thing is that I actually saw this machine in Germany because 2 years ago when we were in Germany, we visited this industry exhibition where they had a section full of textiles and fabrics, and they were selling not the fabric itself, but the machine that creates yarn.
Oh, okay.
So there are some machines that actually take, say for example, plastic bottles and turn them into little pellets that can then be turned into yarn. There are other machines that I saw that actually make yarn. We have a vlog of this on our YouTube channel. I didn't really vlog a lot or go in depth into it. I just wanted to showcase a general idea of where I was and what I was seeing. But feel free to go to our YouTube channel. I think you are just like Cricket Crochet, right?
Yeah.
Go to our YouTube channel. It's one of our earlier vlogs of when we were in Germany, and you can take a look at these machines that I saw. And I did actually see this Comez,
Machine.
like crochet knit machine,
Uh-huh.
and it's exactly as it sounds. It's an embroidery machine look-alike that creates long bands of what looks like spandex, almost like,
Right.
when you have a wound and you put that elastic bandage over you,
Uh-huh.
it looks like that. So
So-
it's kind of like woven and like lace detailed.
So my question is, based on what you saw, does it really mimic a crochet stitch?
It doesn't even come close.
Oh, okay.
As long as you are aware of what crochet actually looks like, when you look at it up close, it doesn't even compare.
Right.
You can tell, you can clearly tell.
Immediately, yeah.
Because it's so flat, and there are some parts where the yarn doesn't even touch each other.
Oh, okay.
It's just sort of like laid in a design on a flat sheet and just everything is stitched down.
Right.
That's kind of where I feel like the misinformation comes from.
Yeah.
That people think that crochet can be machine made because there is if you Google it,
Yeah, there's something that's called
there will
crochet machine.
Yeah, exactly. There will be a machine that pops up with the name crochet machine.
Right.
Okay, so now that we've sort of, explained a little bit, I know it's a long explanation, but now that we've explained a little bit into what can and cannot be machine made and what true crochet really is versus, crochet, can we say imitation?
Yeah.
So let's just use the word crochet imitation for the rest of this episode. And I hope you guys know that I'm referring to what, like the machine, the fake crochet. I don't want to say fake crochet, so like imitation.
Yeah.
Okay? So the big question here that we get asked all the time is, if you claim that crochet cannot be machine made, then what the hell am I seeing in the stores?
Right. Those affordable crochet pieces, right?
Affordable crochet pieces. So there's always two, it's one or the other, right? So one of them is that it's the fake crochet, and usually those
The
are
imitation crochet, yeah.
I mean, yeah, the imitation crochet, and usually those are really, really cheap.
Yeah.
And they're really bad quality, so wash it once or twice, it's all gonna come apart.
Yeah.
And the second one is that it's actually truly crochet. Like, if you recognize true crochet, I'm pretty sure you've walked into like an H&M or Forever 21 or Zara or, one of the high street brands, and you've picked up something that you know and recognize to be truly crochet. Where does that come from? Because having said all that I've said, and seeing true crochet in stores, firstly, it appears to be mass produced because you can walk into different stores of the same brand across the country and they're all going to have that same thingy in different sizes.
Yeah.
Right? And it's relatively cheap. So I feel like those two things, those two facts, cannot really coexist, and I think that's what's confusing people when I say crochet cannot be machine made. And let me tell you the answer now. The reason you can get that in shops is because of sweatshops.
Yeah.
AKA modern day slavery.
Yeah, that's a very reasonable explanation.
Unfortunately, that's just the reality of things, that the crochet you see in stores is, I'm pretty sure, like 99% made by modern day slaves.
Yeah.
And let me explain what that is. I'm sure all of you know what sweatshops are, but if you don't know, a sweatshop is basically a huge factory that employs and underpays women and children and people who are desperately in need and put them into manual labor to create lots and lots of products for really, really cheap. And a lot of times, these people, like these children and women and, underprivileged people, populations of people, they're underpaid. It's not fair trade labor. They're working, long hours, 12, 13, 14 hours, sometimes throughout the night, in poor working conditions. They don't have any health benefits. They're basically paid the equivalent of 5 USD a month. And they go back and support their families with these small amounts. A lot of the times, these sweatshops are located in Southeast Asian countries, like for example, India, Vietnam, whereas Indonesia, China, right? China,
Yeah.
Lots of them, and Cambodia. And, we are in Singapore, and we are in the heart of Southeast Asia. And so we see a lot of our neighboring countries, we see the quality of life they have, and it's really depressing,
Yeah.
And to know that we buy into the industries that help fuel these unfair working conditions.
Yeah, businesses just take advantage of them, I
think we did mention in a previous episode, right, that if you get really, really cheap how you can get crochet for really cheap is that sweatshops employ people who work in sections.
Yeah.
And so like one person does this and another person does that, and
Right.
that's why you get it really cheap. And I think we might have hinted once or twice at this episode that's coming up, like this one we're talking about. But it's just a lot of these sweatshops are located in like really disaster-ridden countries because these people will be desperate for business and they're not really in a position to choose, right? Because
correct.
they whatever cent and dollar they can earn,
whatever work they can find, they will just do it.
they'll do it. And it's just really sad to see big corporations take advantage of that.
Yeah. And I guess this is the only way that they can earn a profit, right? By drastically underpaying these workers.
Exactly, that's a really good question. I mean, you've kind of got to ask yourself how much these workers, like these women and children, are actually being paid to allow these big companies to sell you something that's affordable and still turn
earn
a profit,
right?
And be like freaking millionaires and billionaires out of that. You know, like just take, not even in crochet, like fast fashion, like any t-shirt. We know a basic t-shirt, I mean by now it's like all over the media, right? A basic t-shirt takes lots of nature resources as well as human resources to make. You know, what more crochet that needs, like true crochet that needs to be done stitch
entirely
by stitch,
handmade,
by hand. And beyond just one piece, they've got to make thousands of pieces to be sent across the world, and they're not, the profits that they get is not even going to them, and they're the makers of it, you know. I know of some there's like a local jewelry brand here in Singapore that's quite big. You know, she used to create jewelry by hand herself, like she would sit in her studio and work, but after a while she got so big that she started outsourcing the production process to a factory in Cambodia.
Right.
And when the media found out about it, because she was quite popular and she kind of branded herself as, oh, like, you know, I'm entirely bespoke handmade jewelry. When they asked her, do you still consider yourself handmade bespoke if you are sending your designs to Cambodia, having it made really cheap, and bringing it back here to Singapore and selling it for thousands? And she had the audacity to say, it's still handmade, it's just not handmade
my hand
by me right now. You know, it's handmade by somebody. And that's like a gross misrepresentation of what handmade is, and entirely taken advantage. And I know that big corporations think that way. Like when they sell you something that's, you know, quote unquote handmade, it's not really handmade. There's still some element of it that's done, you know, in a factory. And like even us, we don't spin our own yarn, right? We still buy into the yarn industry that makes use of like women and children to dye the yarn and pull the strands and you know, collect the wool from all the different farms, and it still requires that, you know. And there's nothing we can do about it unless we look for a more sustainable yarn option.
Yeah, I think the difference is when we talk about handmade, we are talking about a one piece
a unique
product
bespoke.
that we are doing it by hand, but these businesses are doing it mass production, right?
Yeah, that's
so
right.
I don't think it should be considered as handmade in that sense.
Exactly. And it's not just mass production of one thing, it's multiple designs of multiple things.
Exactly.
And I feel so sorry for like can you imagine the children? And a lot of, you know, like I said earlier, a lot of these factories are in very poor conditions. They don't even have good lighting sometimes. You know, just go Google sweatshop into like you say YouTube, and the videos that come up is enough to like give you nightmares. Like, don't talk about, you know, having the right to, you know, I don't know, internet, God knows, you know, some of these places don't even have internet. They don't even have shoes to wear to go to the factory. It's really sad actually. So if you think fast fashion is horrible, can you imagine how much worse crochet fast fashion is?
Yeah.
You know, and I hate it that just because it's the trend now, you know, you see on TikTok so many people, there's so many young, like, I want to say children. Are they like 16, 17, 18?
Yeah. Youths.
Okay, children. Who are just so into crochet because it's the trend. And they see all these like girls on TikTok who are making crochet pieces and they don't know how to crochet, but they just want that trend. So they go out and buy all these crochet things, and crochet pieces are they're super high demand.
Yeah.
Or at least this is the culture that we are seeing here in Singapore from our point of view.
Yeah.
I don't know how it is in other countries, but for here in Singapore at least, that's what's going on. And so people come to me and say, I want a crochet top for like $20. How soon can you get it to me?
Yeah.
And I have to sort of, take a deep breath and say, hi, little girl. Do you understand what you're asking for? Crochet takes this amount and this amount, and it's this and this and this, and it's bespoke, so I've got to measure you because everything is made to measure. I need you to know it takes me like 2-3 weeks, sometimes even longer, if your order comes after a bunch of custom orders I received. Because it's not like I get your order and I work on it immediately, right?
Yeah.
I still have other custom orders,
yeah,
and other projects and teaching schedules. So with that in mind, it's this amount and this amount and this time frame, and are you able to wait 3 weeks and pay $70 for something?
Yeah.
And these children go, what? That's insane. I can get it cheaper at Topshop.
Yeah.
Like Forever 21. And they don't understand that what they're buying is not fair. It's not fair crochet. Now we have a new term like that's fair crochet.
Yeah. Unfair crochet.
Unfair crochet. Now I know it all seems very dire and very serious. It is kind of a serious topic.
It is, yeah.
But there is still a simple solution to how you can get crochet items for yourself that's not either machine made, fake machine made, or made in a sweatshop. And that is to shop your small local businesses from your local artists, your crochet artists. And when you buy from them, your local small crochet business, your money isn't going to some, millionaire's pocket buying their 9th Malibu beachfront property.
Yeah.
The money goes to real people with real bills to pay and help feed us and our children. You're feeding families when you do that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's so sad that big companies buy into this crochet trend to earn a quick buck. And it really undervalues the real handmade crochet that we do. And it undermines all the hard work that we put into our business,
Yeah, so if you have friends, or if you know anybody that still believes that crochet can be machine made and sold for really cheap, send them this link to this episode and we'll help you explain it to them.
We will gladly explain to them in detail.
Because the fact is that crochet cannot be machine made.
Yeah.
It's not possible. Who knows what the future holds? We have flying cars and self-crocheting hooks. Who knows, right? But as of this moment, it's just not possible. And because it's not machine made, if you want to have something that's crocheted, it all has to be made by hand. Every single stitch has to be built up individually, painstakingly, blindingly. And if you ask for something in black, please don't. Because it's so hard to see in black. There's just no way around it.
Yeah.
And if you get something that's crocheted in, for like, say, a bag or whatever, it could be anything. You need to know that real man hours are being put in it. Every dollar you pay is not being cut into, like 10 cents goes to, the packaging, another 10 cents goes to the, like the factories and, the delivery. It's not. Every single cent goes into the time that's being stitched in to your work. And I can't emphasize that enough, because as someone who crochets and I see other people who crochet, it's so easy to see a really beautiful piece of work condensed into 15 minutes on YouTube.
Yeah.
Or worse, 15 seconds on TikTok. But what actually goes in is like 15 hours, 15 days of work, sometimes 12 months.
Yeah, and the thing is, I can 100% guarantee you, whatever that is handmade, the quality is,
Yes, so much better.
Yeah.
I find it funny that people think handmade is not as good as machine made. I think it's just the idea that like a machine can produce something more sturdy, and if it's handmade, I don't know, I find it funny. I have a story to share. When we were doing one of the art markets, I think a couple years ago, somebody came up to our stall, our booth, and said, "Oh, what is this? It looks like knit." So I said, "Oh, it's crochet. It's not knit, but yeah, it's kind of similar where we use yarn, but knitting is." I did my whole spiel, right?
Right.
And this person said, "Oh, you did it by hand? Why don't you just buy it from the factory?" And I said, "What do you mean buy it from the factory?" And she said, "Oh, it is just get it machine made. It's better quality. It's stronger. It lasts better. It lasts longer, and it's just better." So I said, "Oh, that's not how machine-made stuff works. Like, people pay for handmade. Handmade is better." And she goes, "What? No, of course not. Machine-made is better. Like, you trust the machine. You don't want like a handmade like greeting card. You want it properly done in the machine."
Yeah.
And so I think people have an idea that things done in the machine is proper, and you can trust the quality because it produces the same thing over and over again.
Right.
Without human error.
Right.
But it's the same cheap thing over and over again.
Yeah.
And I think what makes crochet wonderful is that every piece is kind of like infused with the personality of the person.
That's what's special about it, right?
Yeah, infused with the personality of the person crocheting it.
Yeah, I read somewhere somebody said that handmade stuff should be treated like it's a luxury good.
It should be. It is.
You know what I mean?
And you know what? Luxury goods are handmade.
Exactly. So
it's the other way around.
By that concept, it should be treated like a luxury good. Or branded bags are handmade.
So I did tell her, do you know like people pay for handmade things? They paid for the thousands. She's like, "Oh, show me that day and I'll buy something." It's like, okay, sure. You walk into any, say, everybody knows Chanel.
Yeah.
Everybody knows Dior. Everybody knows Gucci. And all these brands, like the clothes that you see, are the way it is because it's handmade.
Exactly.
No leather bag that you buy is not handmade. It's somebody actually crafting it, And I think recently, I think Dior has been putting out lots of videos on their Instagram showing the behind the scenes of how it actually is being made, because I think they're trying to, change the perception of what handmade really is.
Yeah.
And try to put a value to their work, because it's not just one person. It's one person's value that's accumulated over decades of hard work.
Yeah, and I think that's important because until you see it, it's very hard to believe that even the sewing thread is hand sewn, stitch by stitch.
Yeah, it's stitched by, exactly. And I'm not trying to compare ourselves to these luxury brands, but the concept is the same.
Correct.
When you get a bag or crochet anything from any crochet artist, you're getting it, really every stitch is put in stitch after stitch, and it's slow, it takes time. And when we talk about crochet not being able to be machine made, like a machine might be able to create one thing over and over again, but a machine is not going to be able to spend 10 years trying to get better and better and better at what they do.
Right, that's true.
And for that reason, even if crochet could be machine made, and even if you could buy something that's knit machine made, you're still gonna want to support that local knitter in your neighborhood, that local crocheter, because they're able to put in value that you cannot get from a machine, like artistic and
experience.
Right? Exactly. And it's just something different. There's just a quality to something that's handmade.
Yeah, definitely. At the end of the day, a machine has that limitations, right?
Exactly. And when it comes to crochet, you cannot machine made.
Yes.
So anyway, I know this episode has been a long, draggy one. I just feel that it's important as a crochet artist to, speak up for all the other crochet artists around that have to face this question, and maybe some of them don't even know, because 3 years ago I probably didn't even know either. I just know that I want to crochet, and I crochet. And there are lots of people, because crochet is the trend, who are now going to crochet artists and demand something so unrealistic because machines have made things so affordable that they don't understand the value of handmade. And if you're a crochet artist out there and somebody's gonna underpay you for something you're gonna spend hours doing, please don't. I hope nobody's being underpaid just because someone's able to get it cheaper at like Zara or whatever it is. Please don't. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Please leave a comment on our Instagram or send us a message with your thoughts. And if you have other information about this that you think would be good to share, I'd love to do a part 2 of this where we come back and share some of your experiences with our listeners, because every time we research an episode, we learn a lot too, right?
Yeah,
I never knew that the name of this machine, you know, the crochet machine, was actually for medical purposes. I never knew that. But anyway, send us a message. You can find us on Instagram or Facebook. We are at Crooked Crochet SG, or you can drop us a WhatsApp at +65 91 272 743, or email us crookedcrochetsg@gmail.com. But I'd love to see your Instagram instead because I'm not anywhere else. And check back every Sunday. New episodes get released at 12 noon. That's Singapore time, which is GMT +8. Greenwich Mean Time +8.
So look forward to another exciting episode next week.
It's also an informative episode. So until then, I'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.